Well, it's been revealed one of the dingoes involved in the attack of a woman on Gary had previously been identified as a risk to visitors. A 23-year-old woman was left with 30 bite marks after being attacked by 4 dingoes on the Queensland island yesterday, formerly Fraser Island. In June, vision was released by the Queensland Department of Environment and Science showing the moment a holidaymaker got a nasty surprise while sunbathing on the island as well. The department used the footage to warn, there it is, they used the footage to warn of the danger that those native animals pose.
Can I please urge people who are going to Gary to make sure that they look at all the information provided to them. There is some very strong messages there on that information about not walking alone or running alone. So please think very carefully and look at that information because there are dingoes on that island.
Joining us live now is the Queensland Parks and Wildlife Service Senior Ranger Linda Behrendorff. Linda, thanks for your time. Good to see you. So what can you tell us about the dog or dogs who were responsible for this attack yesterday?
Look, these animals are a known and habituated pack from the northern end of Gary. We've got rangers watching what they're doing at the moment, and we're just sort of waiting for the discussions to take place at much higher levels about what's going to happen to the ones that are able to be identified. We're still investigating some of the footage to also try and see who else was involved.
Okay, so there is footage of it.
There's some slight footage of it. It's of the dingoes involved.
Okay, so were they tagged?
They look to be tagged. One's definitely got a collar on it. He's easily identifiable, and he's wearing that collar because he is an animal of concern that we've been monitoring for some time now.
Okay, so that's why you're considering what to do. So is euthanising it an option?
It is an option, yes.
So what's the process? How does that all work?
We work to a strategy, and that strategy is available online to anyone to read. Within that strategy, our job is to conserve dingoes or wangari, as well as to mitigate risk to humans, and that includes risk to dingoes themselves as well. I mean, this particular animal is quite a the one that we have identified with the collar is quite a large animal. They're also responsible for taking other dingoes out as well within those areas, which is generally a natural process. We work in collaboration with the Butler Aboriginal Corporation, so these decisions aren't just made by QPWS, it's done in collaboration, and also, as I said before, at much higher levels than the rangers on the ground. It's the rangers on the ground's job to monitor situations, report what's happening, educate the people, do the patrols, understand what animals are in that human-wildlife interface and be able to conserve and mitigate risk around that.
For those outside that area, Linda, what's the population of dingoes on Gary and what's the percentage of them that are tagged?
Look, there's probably around 15 to 20% tagged. Only dingoes that come into that human area, which is around 5% of the island, that do actually get tagged. They're tagged for identification purposes, and it also helps understand a bit more about the dingo as well, their longevity. A tagged dingo can be tagged in at, say, Eurong, and then in a number of months with our trail cameras, you'll find them up around Sandy Cape. They're wandering around the island. They go all over the island. It helps us understand the population as a whole as well.
Are we,
and people are
yeah, sorry, Linda. Yeah, so are we talking hundreds of dogs as a total population, or are there thousands? Just how many? I'm curious.
No, sorry. Around 100 to 200 is what the studies show. At this particular time of year, it's their highest peak because they're having their pups at this time of year. The alpha animals will be retracting back in to have their young. But you're dealing with 1 to 2 year old animals that are still trying to find their place in the pecking order. So they're the ones that often get themselves into trouble like this.
Okay, so a few hundred and 20% of them are tagged. We've just seen this picture. We just played it for our audience too. I mean, this is. We've seen this a few times recently of that poor sunbather who was nipped just a couple of weeks ago. Why has there been an uptick? It seems a slight uptick on perhaps attacks against people.
Okay, I guess you've got to remember that in 2019-20, COVID closed the island down, so we haven't had people on the island there, and now it's all reopened and situation normal, if not more visitors, because overseas travel was stopped, so everyone's bought a four-wheel drive and they come to places like Moreton and Gari and that. Also, what we've got to remember is that if you're going to allow an animal to walk through a human area, or should I say it like a herd unchallenged, then that dingo is going to test the boundaries, and that's exactly what that dingo with the French tourist did. She wasn't wearing coconut oils or anything nice smelling. That animal's just walked up unprovoked and gone, oh, I'll give that a test, a bit like a shark might in the water, and then she's got up to get away from it and it's taken that lunge. So they are dangerous situations that we need to make sure that people understand that in that human-wildlife interface, it's only about 5% of that island. We shouldn't be allowing dingoes to just wander through and feeling that they can do their own thing in those small part of the island. We need to reset those boundaries, challenge those animals and say, look, this is your island, but in these particular areas, no, you need to stay wild, stay away.
So do you do that? Who has to reset those boundaries?
Everybody does. Everybody does. So not just rangers, so dingoes get to know rangers and only stay away from them. It needs to be everybody. And we did do this earlier when we were able to use, hazing or aversion situations where it kept those animals at a point where they understood you can't come in here and do this in this small percentage of the island. We now use fences in those residential areas, and they separate humans and wangari in those small areas. And that seems to be the most effective means. But you can't fence Eli Creek, and you can't fence some of these lake areas because an animal's still got to come and get their water.
Right. I mean, these pictures and these attacks, that's going to scare some folks off. So is Gary a safe place for visitors?
It's a safe place if you do your research before you come. Understand what Gari is, or Moreton, or Stradbroke, or Mungulbin, wherever you go to. You do your research first. If you're travelling with children, understand the risks. Doesn't matter where you go. If you're travelling alone, if you're going to rent a house as opposed to camp, do your research. There's some Be Dingo safe messages there that, especially if you're on Gari, you keep your kids close, you walk in groups, you walk with a stick or a fishing rod. If you've got something like that, we do know that dingoes won't approach you. It's been shown. Understand the risks and keep yourself safe within that, and Gari will be a safe place for everyone to visit.
Okay. Linda Behrendorff, thanks for your time. Appreciate it. We'll talk to you soon. Some good advice there.